Hello, Toronto Maple Leafs fans, and welcome to Boys in Blue News. I'm Liam, and today we're diving into a news piece that could shake up our team and reshape expectations for the rest of the season. With the NHL trade deadline approaching, potential roster moves are surfacing that might directly impact the Leafs' performance. Will we see reinforcements in the attack or crucial defensive adjustments? Stick with me because there's plenty to break down. Before we begin, I want to remind all of you how important it is to be part of our community. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Every subscription is crucial to strengthening our fan base and helps us bring you more content about everything surrounding the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's keep this going because here at Boys in Blue News, you are an essential part of the team. The NHL trade deadline is fast approaching. March 7th is just around the corner. And if you're a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs, you know how much moves during this window can shape the team's future. But here's a question. Is Christian Dvorak the right player to fill one of the team's gaps? Let's talk about it. David Pagnotta, a well-respected NHL insider, brought an intriguing name to the table during the latest edition of The Latest, Christian Dvorak, a center from the Canadiens. Before you get excited or dismiss the idea, it's important to note that, for now, this is purely speculative. But the pieces of the puzzle are starting to align. Dvorak is in the final year of a 6-year contract valued at $26.7 million, with a $4.45 million cap hit. For a team like the Leafs looking to bolster its depth in the attack, especially in secondary lines, he could be a viable option. The main issue for general manager Brad Treliving is cap space. Toronto doesn't have much flexibility, but Montreal could help by retaining part of Dvorak's salary. This would make the trade more feasible, but as Pagnotta highlighted, this is still a distant possibility. Dvorak is not having his best season, with just 3 goals and 9 assists in 42 games. However, he brings valuable qualities. His 55.9% face-off win rate is a standout, and he plays a key role in penalty killing. Additionally, with nearly 500 NHL games of experience and 96 career goals, he offers the stability Treliving is looking for to reinforce the middle lines. Now, here's a question for you, fans. Do you think the Leafs should take a chance on a player like Dvorak, who may not be flashy but is solid in specific areas? Or should they focus on another target? Brad Treliving has been clear about his approach. The goal is to bring in a center who is defensively strong and physical, but without sacrificing the team's top prospects like Easton Cowan and Fraser Minton. It's a delicate balance, Treliving stated, indicating that the Leafs are willing to improve, but without jeopardizing the franchise's future. Among the possible targets, names like Scott Laughton, Yanni Gourde, and even a return of Ryan O'Reilly have been mentioned. Each brings unique attributes, but does any of them fit within the Leafs' budget and current needs? Additionally, Treliving emphasized that the team is focused on adjustments to the power play and keeping Austin Matthews healthy for key commitments like the Four Nations face-off in February. This shows the team's management is aiming for a balance between immediate performance and long-term sustainability. While Toronto looks to solidify its position at the top of the Atlantic Division, the situation with the Montreal Canadiens is different. After an inconsistent start, the team has improved in recent weeks, but still needs to decide whether to fight for a playoff spot or begin trading veterans like Dvorak to focus on the future. This uncertainty could play a key role in the outcome of any potential trade. When I think about a potential trade involving Christian Dvorak and the Toronto Maple Leafs, the first thing that comes to mind is the balance Brad Treliving needs to achieve. It's not easy to find a piece that fits perfectly into the team without compromising the future, especially when the cap space is so tight. And that's where I wonder, is Dvorak really the player Toronto needs right now? Looking at the numbers, he's not exactly the type of player to make a splash. With just 3 goals and 9 assists in 42 games, he's not the name to transform the Leafs offense. But there's something about Dvorak that makes sense. His consistency in less glamorous areas. He's efficient in face-offs and solid defensively. Qualities that don't always show up in the stats, but make a huge difference during tightly contested games. This is something the Leafs need, especially with the playoffs in mind, where details like winning faceoffs and protecting the defensive zone can decide games. However, we need to consider the context. Treliving has already made it clear that he doesn't want to part with promising young players like Easton Cowan or Fraser Minton. And honestly, I agree with him. Sustainable success in the NHL doesn't come just from big signings, but also from developing internal talent that can contribute in the long run. Sacrificing the future for a player like Dvorak, who may not be an immediate difference maker, would be a high-risk move. Another point is cost-effectiveness. For this trade to make sense, Montreal would likely have to retain part of Dvorak's salary. This would ease the cap hit for the Leafs. But would Montreal be willing to do that? And even if they are, is it worth committing financial resources to a player who may not have the desired impact? Ultimately, the main question here is whether the Leafs are willing to bet on a player who offers stability but doesn't solve the team's offensive problems. It's a choice that could improve the roster in specific areas, but is unlikely to be enough to elevate Toronto to a level above the strongest competitors. So, my opinion is that while Dvorak has valuable qualities, he might not be the right fit for Toronto at this moment. The Leafs need to think bigger, aiming for someone who truly makes a difference both offensively and defensively, someone who complements stars like Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. So we return to the initial question: is Christian Dvorak the missing piece of the Leafs? Or should the team look in another direction? With the trade deadline approaching, the pressure is mounting. Share your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think should be the Leafs' top target in this final stretch?